to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
It always seems impossible till it's done.
And Dale Hummel.
If you're not making mistakes, you're not progressing.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Can we term it Balloon Gate, or do we have to name it something else?
I don't even know what it is anymore. Like, seriously. First off, I have so many issues with this, and I know that to that little person that messaged me last week that's saying that I took too much time on this. Okay, sorry about your bad luck, because I'm going to take time on it again. So, I just want to recap. We let one balloon go over Alaska, Canada, Montana, all the way down till it got into the coast of South Carolina. Shoot it down. Then, it took us 8 days, by the way. Now, anything gets up in the sky, we just shoot it down and we don't tell anybody what it is.
The White House.
We are like the
quiet.
trigger happiest people in the world.
It's there's
Southwest,
something...
look, they're going to be next. They're going to shoot down a Southwest airplane. I mean, we know they have no luck. Don't fly Southwest, people.
Time out. I flew Southwest last night.
I'm
coming
telling you,
back from San Antonio.
Dude, they're like running into FedEx airplanes and stuff. If they keep shooting shit out of the sky, Southwest aircraft.
Let me tell you about Southwest. A real quick story. Then we'll go back to our Balloon Gate or Object Gate or whatever you're going to call it. So we get a notification that our flight originally is delayed, so we're not going to make our connection in Houston, and we bump up to try to get an earlier flight. With the GOAT show getting over a little bit earlier in the day, we were able to take an earlier flight, and I think we went through Dallas and then into Chicago, and seemed like everything was fine. We get 30 minutes out, and the pilot comes on and says, we might want to make sure to tighten your seatbelt or buckle up and pull your seat forward, trays up, all the things I say. We're going to hit some turbulence. You've heard that before, right, Ryan? That's not uncommon. No big deal. I kind of just went back to sleep. No big deal. And then as we probably another 10 minutes, 20 minutes, we're getting close to approaching the landing. And he comes on the intercom and says, okay, this is going to get pretty rough and we're going to have a pretty hard landing. I suggest that you all brace yourself. You almost hit
another FedEx airplane.
Yeah. Please brace yourself for landing. And I've never experienced that strong of a suggestion from a pilot before.
So did they like make y'all get down in the position and all that?
No, they just said brace yourself, and I mean we went through the landing and it was rough, but I've had worse and they never said a damn thing about bracing yourself. But I would have to say that I was nervous about the whole situation.
Well, again, this is also because Southwest is like lowering the standards for pilots, even though they keep running into FedEx shit. But yeah. This is why he was just nervous. It's probably his first flight. He's just nervous.
Yeah, might have. I mean, you've had rough landings. They never said anything about it.
Oh, absolutely. They never say a damn word. They don't even apologize afterwards. They're like, welcome to wherever. I'm like, we almost died, but it's fine.
And I've had a dozen that were probably worse. I guess I kind of appreciate the heads up, but I was just out of the ordinary. I was expecting we were going to run into a brick wall or off the runway, or I didn't know what was going to happen. A FedEx plane. I didn't know. Okay, back to they're not going to shoot Southwest out of the sky. Ryan, I in my opinion, there's two. So we got a little information on the first one that it was from China, spy balloon, all these things, even though they're not releasing anything about what they found. The following three, which you alluded to, we are getting zero, absolutely nothing, and that means either, in my opinion, the government. They appear to be downplaying this, just ignoring it as best they can, which the reporters I don't think are going to allow it. It's either something very, very serious that they don't want to tell us, or it's incredibly embarrassing. And the other, there's one more option, and this is the worst one. Maybe they truly don't know what the hell they shot down, and that is not a good place for us to be. Can you imagine? Explain to me how we can't figure out what that is prior to shooting it down. How is that possible?
That is not possible. That's why I don't believe in option 3. They don't.
I mean, they're not even saying if it's a balloon or something. They're not saying anything. They have to know more.
No, we're just like shooting things out of the sky, and then the latest thing on this is, which is just there is again no common sense for any of this because we had to wait till the balloon got over the sea so we could not, kill a cow in Montana or some shit.
That
There's
was just all bullshit.
There's
Good
shit and
period.
shoot down over Lake Huron at Mach 12, no problems, whatever. But nothing of the final three, none of it is salvageable. They cannot collect any of the debris and find out what it was.
That's
So
I
we're just
believe
gonna go on.
I believe that to be impossible. And
I believe it
did
to
you
be
notice,
the lies.
Did you get any sense? And I'm a little hypersensitive to these things that they alluded to not alien, but just not. They opened the door for that being a possibility. I think as a distraction.
I think they did, but then it got way twisted, and your little girlfriend did say that this was
not mine. No.
Aliens.
Little Beetlejuice is all
aliens, nothing extraterrestrial.
They had no proof that there was anything extraterrestrial. They still left the crack in the door. I think as a distraction. I do not believe that to be it. And I'm telling you right now, you know where I stand. I believe that
I'm pulling for the aliens.
It's too large not to have something out there. But I promise you, if they have the technology to get here, we damn sure don't need to be shooting at them. That's a terrible idea.
Pulling for the aliens.
Terrible idea.
Oh, I hope it's the aliens. I hope we didn't shoot them down. I'm pulling for the aliens because personally, I don't think anybody, unless we can ride out the next 2 years and get somebody decent elected and all that, we are like screwed. But I'm pulling for the aliens.
Well,
if the aliens are listening, don't take Dale. Take me. I'm much more fun.
All right. The government's also admitted that they likely missed mini balloons over the past few years as they simply were not looking at slow moving objects. And I talked to my family about this a few days ago. That's not what they were focused on. And this is brilliant on China's part to they found that loophole. They found that weak point to get into our airspace. And I think they've probably been, at least for a year, probably there's some saying 3 to 5 years, have been using this for spying purposes. And we've seen blips we've never tied together. We just aren't looking for it. The Pentagon, I think, acknowledged that there's been over 250 objects in our airspace the past year that they cannot identify. Mm-hmm. They didn't shoot all 250 down though, like they are now.
No, just 4.
And they come out and there's a statement that we are now looking in a way we have not looked before. That just tells me it was a blip. It was background noise, whatever on the radars. And they just didn't assume that this was something that was even coming into our airspace, a slow moving object at that altitude. It's embarrassing. We look like a fool on the world stage, in my opinion.
Well, again, and I don't know because there's no information about these other 3. Like, I don't know. I mean, we don't know if they were spacecrafts or what. They're saying they weren't balloons, but anyway, we don't know what they were. But like, my whole thing on China been doing this for multiple years now, and we didn't know it. Okay, I'm not saying that's not true. I fully believe it, but I'm also going to tell you that if China had been getting away with this for, let's say, a year, much less 5 years, there is no way they brought that one so low to the surface of the U.S. so random people could see it in the sky. That was on purpose.
Would you assume something could have went wrong or it was on purpose? One of the two, obviously.
I say it's on purpose.
And isn't it a red flag for you that the White House is, I mean, this dead silent on it, period?
Oh, yeah. Well, what are they going to say? Sorry.
They have to come out and acknowledge something. Do you believe we don't know what we shot down?
They have to know what they shot down because they had to figure out how to shoot it down.
I hear, and I could be mistaken, but I thought our first missile missed the one over.
Yeah, and they don't know where it is either, by the way.
How can we not hit a slow moving object, for crying out loud? Well, again, maybe our defense.
How do they not know where that missile went?
I thought it was in the bottom of the lake, but they said it was deactivated. I don't know how they didn't get down to it. I don't know how they're going to, I don't know. You could be out there fishing for some walleye and hook onto a missile.
That'd be great.
Just great. I don't like the fact the White House is silent. That embarrassing, something really serious. There's no way to tell.
I am pulling for, I'm not pulling, but I'm saying I think it is like you that it is really, really serious and they don't want us to know because, I mean, they have to know what they're shooting down, or how do they know? If they didn't know what they were shooting,
They're not
how
gonna
would they
shoot
know what
something they're
type of
unaware
missile
of.
to shoot it?
I don't know. It's not good. It just isn't.
No.
And your little girlfriend, little Beetlejuice, I haven't listened to any press conference.
She does
What
not
is
look
she
like
deferring?
Beetlejuice.
Is she deferring the question to the Defense Department, or what is she doing?
Yes, she the only thing she stated on it is she said that she wanted to make sure that Americans were aware that there was no proof that this was alien or extraterrestrial involved, yada yada yada, and then she was going to let the spokesperson from the Pentagon handle all the rest of it. So
She doesn't communicate anything.
No, she's very bad at her job.
Just terrible.
She's very
Speaking-
terrible.
Speaking of Nikki Haley, first presidential campaign.
Oh.
I would love for
Okay.
you to break it down for us. I would love for you to.
So, I'll be honest, until Trump appointed her, I didn't know who the hell she was. And I'm not trying to offend the people of South Carolina, but I just didn't know who she was. I thought she did a fine job in the 2 little years that she was at the United Nations. I mean, again, all she was doing was like speaking for Trump and trying to get what he wanted put out on the world stage there. And I thought she did a fine job.
And did she truly try to do that? She was off my radar far enough that I didn't even pay attention to what she was saying.
No, I mean, when we did all the stuff with Israel and all that, I thought she held her ground. And I mean, I remember watching one speech that she gave at the United Nations. I thought she was fine. I really did. But she was only there 2 years and she left and resigned, which a lot of those, I mean, we know lots of people don't make it the whole 4 years, all this other stuff. So there wasn't anything weird about that to me when she resigned. What I thought was weird is what followed. So she was all this, party and Republican Party and, flag waving, all this other stuff. So when she resigned, instead of helping other Republican political candidates campaigning, all this other stuff, she just went and started making speeches for $200,000 pop. And I mean, that's her right, but she never, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but she never stepped in to help the Republican Party in the 2018 midterm or in the 2020 election or in the 2022 midterm.
I don't know that she had the political clout to do it, but she must have.
But now
thought she
she's
did.
going to be president.
Yes, I agree. I understand. I'm just saying, I don't know if she had that, but she would have assumed that she could have helped.
And so, anyway, I watched it, and again, I do not think that I'm sure she did fine for the state of South Carolina and all this other stuff. My whole problem is I have said for years and years and years, I think it is past time for a woman to be president of the United States, but it has to be the right woman, because if it's not the right woman, then it's just going to be this is like camel toe. She
is not that bad. No.
But I'm saying she's the first female vice president, and look how embarrassing it is.
Yes, there. Good point.
Women hate her more than men. So if the first female president isn't absolutely, I mean, she has to be more prepared than a man. And I know that sounds terrible, but it's just the truth.
I agree. It is what it is.
And I mean, I don't think it's right, but that is what it is. And she walks out here in this cream suit and she's flicking her hair and she's waving and blowing kisses. And I literally, before she ever opened her mouth, was like, lady, you are announcing your candidacy for the highest job in the land, to be the leader of the free world, and you look more like you're on a pageant runway stage with this kisses in this way. It was just, she just set the whole women's movement back 20 years, in my opinion. It was just
now we have to tell both sides. I just heard a little bit. I heard her talk about term limits.
She had some points.
Yeah,
she had some points.
So from a policy standpoint, you thought, okay.
Well, no, I thought she brought up good points. She never said how she was going to. I mean, it was kind of like, this is what I want to do, but there was no, this is how I'm going to do it. You see what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
And I think, and I know that's most politicians, and that's what people are going to say. But I will get to the point of this here in a minute. I know I'm rambling, but here's my thing. I think the term limit deal, that was good. Trump also, when he announced for presidency, said he wanted this last time that he wants to implement term limits.
How do you get the people that have been there forever to vote themselves out of office? How does that work?
That's the problem. How do you do that?
I don't think it's possible.
So again, term limits is a nice thing to say.
I think I am a huge fan. I can't tell you how much.
Because that can't happen by executive order. I mean, it has to pass.
It cannot.
It has to pass the Congress and Senate. And so again, how do you get to the people there that are making literally their livelihoods out of this to say, oh, I can only be here for a short time? But
this is where a good dictator at the very top would be beneficial.
And then the other thing that I had not, the one thing that I had not heard from anybody else, I thought it was a very good point. I thought it was a good point. I thought it was a very bad point the way she handled it. She said that one of her things is mental competency exams for any politician over the age of 75. Now, first off, when she said that, she literally pissed off every senior citizen in the world, because basically you can spin that saying she didn't think anybody over 75 is mentally competent. What she should have said is mental competency exams for every politician, period, because we want to have a senator in Pennsylvania right now named Fetterman, if that would be in there. So again, I think that is something that would be good. I think half of them would fail, but she made it an age issue when it needs to be an all-inclusive issue.
Agreed.
And so I thought that was mishandled. I also thought the worst thing about her speech, other than the waving and the kissing and the, oh, I love you, and holding her heart and all that, it was real bad. But while the speech was well written, and again, I don't think there was a lot of substance to it, this big ideas, and it's just her first one. And when she gets in a debate, she's going to have to explain things like this. But she never got the punchlines. Like, if it was something funny, it was supposed to be something funny. It didn't deliver. The crowd reacted later. They're like, oh, that's supposed to be funny. It just was not good enough, in my personal opinion. I just don't think near good enough. But we'll see. Somebody else has announced. I think it was smart for her to go on and announce now, because now it's basically just her and Trump. And the one other thing on Nikki Haley, I'm going to bitch about it. Like, she kept talking about how she was a woman and she's a minority and all this other stuff and yada, yada. But then she said several times she didn't believe in identity politics. You can't have it both ways, lady. So you're either an Indian immigrant, your parents are either an Indian immigrant and you're a minority female, or you don't believe in identity politics.
So her only minority is being a woman, or you're saying she has other minority status?
No, her parents are immigrants.
You said Indian, not Native American, but...
No, not feather.
That is not appropriate.
Okay, gas station.
But I think
they came from India.
Okay, great.
And they came the legal way. I do want to point that out.
Well, I don't know that she looks Indian.
Not really.
Maybe. But I think it's a Pocahontas type thing.
But then she also, on her voter ID card in like 2015, she listed her race as white. So she only wants to be an Indian and a female at certain times. So I don't know. But
so as anyway, of right
she's
now,
in the race now.
Oh, I have a theory, and I don't know if this just a theory. The only reason I can see her coming out in announcing her candidacy and thinking she's going to win the presidency is, for some reason, she believes Trump is going to pull out, because she has to know she can't beat him.
Yeah,
in the primary,
he's not going to pull out, and she's not.
But why then? Then what is she doing?
I think that's a very valid point.
I think she has to believe that. She has
to.
She's throwing a big wild card out there saying, "Hey, Mr. Trump, you need to talk about me as vice president, and I'll step down." I don't think that's a good idea on her part.
Well, and then the worst thing for her is they say Senator Tom Scott from South Carolina is going to run too, so that's going to split South Carolina. And then, but I don't know. Like I think she will do well in South Carolina because she was a very popular governor there, even though she did ditch them and leave in midterm to go be the United Nations person. I think she'll do well. I think Scott will do well in South Carolina if he announces. I think the smartest thing she did was be the second one to announce, because now it's gonna be like every other day when this starts, somebody new is announcing. So she's getting the most out of her deal. So that was why
maybe she just thinks the publicity now would be good, but to take the wrath that Trump's going to put on her, I don't think I don't think a publicity stunt is going to work. What do you think? In theory, if she were to let's say Trump drops out, or let's back up. In theory, do you think she's a more appealing general election candidate than Trump?
No.
Okay.
Don't. Because I think, again, whether you like Hillary Rodham Clinton, whether you like her politics, whether you think she's Satan, I don't care.
I care 100%.
There has never been a female that was more prepared to be president than her. And that's the truth, whether you like her politics or not.
Hell.
So is Joe Biden.
So being crooked, how does that prepare you? How does that qualify
Talking
you?
about the fact that she went through 8 years as her husband as the president. She was always involved. She did serve as Secretary of State. She did serve as a senator. She has been very heavily involved in all things White House for a very, very long time. So
Minus
in that
ethics,
part,
her resume reads well.
I didn't say I said, again, whether you think she's Satan or not, there has never been another woman that was more prepared. I didn't think she needed the job. I don't think she needs it now.
I think she's a horrible person.
I agree with you. But I do not think that I think Nikki Haley will get literally eaten alive in debates. She's only polling at 3%.
Well, some people just don't know who she is yet. But I don't think she has much chance. Real quick, and not to diminish this at all, but I wanted to bring out the fact that the Michigan State shooter, and I don't have a lot of information on this. All I caught was a George Soros supported prosecutor a few years ago. He was arrested, and he should have been charged with a felony. She reduced it to a misdemeanor, which allows him to go out and still purchase firearms. Not saying that he wouldn't have purchased one illegally or anything, but again, that whole system that Soros has promoted in these prosecutors that he's gotten into office, it's eating at our seams. It's ridiculous time and time again, the issues that is causing, and I am yet to better understand why he wants this chaos and why he wants to bring the U.S. down from inside. I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, I do hate that for Michigan State. And again, I've been on the campus several times, and I mean, just terrible. But I hate that any time, whether it's at Michigan State or it was the gay bar in Florida or any of those things, I hate that every time that this happens, both sides, and I will say both sides, turn it into political warfare. I just don't think it's right. And again, Joe called for a ban on assault weapons, and I don't know this, but because I didn't research it enough, but like I heard several times that the man used a pistol instead of an assault weapon. But like, I don't know. I just hate that it's never truly about the victims. It's about what they can do next political wise. But I hate that for everyone that's a Michigan State alumni and all the kids that are at Michigan State right now. We are thinking about you at this time.
It's terrible. I have some more positive news.
What?
BTR JLA. I've received, I don't know how many texts and Facebook messages, Ryan, and I want to make sure to set the record straight here. There's a lot of happy kids out there getting their belt buckles, getting their trophies. And Ryan, you need to take that credit and your crew for getting all that done, because you've made a lot of kids. I mean, they're excited. I don't know how many I've got. I'm sure you've received piles of them.
No, And they are, like I said, the all-around awards went out, the national trophies went out, a lot of the belt buckles went out. We're still working on this week and next week regional banners and the states that had sponsored awards programs, those banners, but we've got a big portion of them out. And I didn't, it's one of those things, send some of them out, and people are like, well, where's this? Well, I mean, I'd rather get more awards out the quicker we can, and we'll get them all out here in the next couple of weeks. But lots of happy kids, lots of happy parents, and that makes you feel good about things. And there's going to be mistakes. I'm sure when I get home from San Antonio, there's going to be boxes that, had incorrect address, and we'll work through all that. But, I mean, when you're shipping out this number of awards, no one is going to be perfect, but we'll work through it all. But it was very encouraging to see the Facebook posts, the messages, the snaps, and all that of kids with their stuff, and very, very excited. So that is very, very good.
It's staggering just to think out how. I know you've announced it so many times, but just actually how many awards went out. It was a very. Do you have a total number?
It's over 2,000. It will be over 2,000 when they all go out.
Not and wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Any other BTRJLA news?
Just that we are working on the regional banners and state banners, and those will get out. And again, any of you that, and some, like I said, they're all just getting out. Some of them are getting out now, but if you don't think that you got your national award or whatever, email us. We'll look up, see what the deal is. But I mean, we tried very hard to be very accurate, so we're not expecting a whole lot of mistakes. But I mean, we know that they will be there. But and then again, just today, where it's like 3:00 here almost, and I've had 5 shows email or call about sanctioning for the next year. People are still signing up. At probably in March, we're going to start. We've got a lot of sponsors already for next year. Some regional sponsors, some national sponsors, some corporate sponsors from last year. But if you were interested in any of that, and especially if you were a sponsor last year and you're interested in doing the same thing, please contact us. We need your sponsorship. We need that money to make this all happen again. If you didn't sponsor last year and are interested in it, please contact us. But in March, we're going to start putting up the sponsors that have come back, having their ad spots run here on the podcast, all that. We're just taking a little break and trying to get all of these awards shipped out before I can focus on the next thing.
Excellent. Greatly appreciated. With that, Show Fresh H2O continues to gain in popularity as more stock show families become believers. It is a simple and effective tool that allows you the best opportunity to succeed in the ring. Thank you to Show Fresh H2O for bringing this product to market and your continued support of this podcast. It is appreciated.
And Dale still wants to be your water boy.
It is also, I saw some water boy T-shirts in San Antonio, hydration expert water. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't a Show Fresh H2O, just general T-shirts. Oh. It is time for the main topic. And we're going to address show stock buying options. It's that time of year in the north where there's a lot of sheep, goats, and pigs being sold. It seems like these sales continue to get earlier each year, but it is that time. And Ryan, I think we've touched on a lot of these independently, whether it was online sales or brokers or whatever it may be. But we've had several requests to address it further, and I think maybe it's a good idea to condense it all into one episode, and new stock show families can kind of use that as a starting point. So it is our intent to discuss the different options that families have and some of the positive and negative that comes with that. I don't think there's any perfect way for a given family or a group of people to decide, okay, this is the best way. Each family is going to be different. Maybe you live closer to where those animals are you want to buy. Maybe you live across the country. There's so many different scenarios that we have to look at. We need to make sure to give as much information as we can to help some of those new families that are maybe just stepping into the game. But with that, Ryan, I'll kind of guide us through the different options that I see there, and we can try to go and highlight what you and I, or at least our personal beliefs or experiences have been with the positive and negative of that. And let's start off a question that I get a lot this time of year. I get a text? Do you sell Weathers private treaty? So let's start with breeders selling private treaty. Ryan, thoughts on that concept?
Dale doesn't believe in it.
No, I don't not believe in it. I don't do it, but it's not. I think it works great for some people. How's that?
Yeah. No, and again, I have bought animals in every single way that you could even imaginable, and probably some that people don't even think are possible. But a lot of people do. Breeders, talking about breeders selling private, a lot of people do this, and I think it works fine. Again, they breed those animals, they have them there at their place, people come by, and I think this is a way that people can generate income all throughout the year. Is probably one of the perks of this, because it's not like they just have one sale or two sales a year. They can sell them whenever they want throughout the year, and a lot of times, people don't always buy animals at the same time, even though, a lot of the seasons are the same. People still buy animals at different times of the year, depending on their financial situations, where they're headed, what they're doing, all this other stuff. And so I think that selling private treaty as a breeder is something that is very beneficial and works out well for, multiple people. And I do think most people believe, I am not as big a believer on this, but Dale is. I think that most people like when they go see an animal, if they ask, well, can I see the dam? Can I see the sire? And it's normally in those situations, the breeding private treaty deal, where you're the most likely to be able to have that scenario.
No, I'd agree. I think there's a lot of positive. I think that the fact that you're there and either can visit with that manager or herdsman or owner or whoever it may be and form a relationship with those and hopefully allow them to give you some guidance, I think that works out extremely well. And I think private treaty sales, they've been around as long as there has been a stock show industry, and they're still around. So there's obviously some good to it because it's continued. I don't know that it's gone up and down a lot, but I think it's always been there, and I think it always will be there. It's difficult, and we can use our situation kind of as an example, or others, and this applies to not just breeders selling private treaty, but anytime there's situations like this, it becomes difficult when it's the junior market animals that are more season specific, that group that you have to sell. So who gets first pick? Who gets to come in first? I don't know how is that priority determined, Ryan?
Well, it can go a number of ways on this deal. I think a lot of times, and people don't want to hear this, but a lot of times I think this is the advantage for the private treaty seller, is they can pick and choose. If they've got one they think is a bona fide badass, then they can go to a family that has either bought from them for a number of years, or have had proven success in the show ring, and say, hey, I think you might be interested in this one, yada, yada, yada. Or a lot of times it's just first come, first serve.
No, but I get it.
And again, I do think that the advantages for the private treaty seller they can sell that animal to whoever they want, as long as that person's willing to pay the price. I think that's also a disadvantage for them too, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, the McCoys always get first pick, and us Hatfields, we can't be in there before them, so we never get the best one.
There's a lot of that out there, and that's part of the reason. And I'll talk a little more when we get into the online sales on why we do that. But you're exactly right, Ryan, and I think it is an advantage for the breeder in terms of placing that animal into the home that you think is going to have the most success. It may not be financially as beneficial, rather than opposed to putting them on the open market, but placing those animals in the politically correct hands, the better feeder hands, whatever you want to call it, is probably going to get them to the backdrop more often, which helps build their brand. There's a lot of long-term good to come of that. But I know from a standpoint, and we'll sell some older does and some females private treaty. It just takes if we were to sell all of our market wethers or prospect does or prospect show wethers private treaty, I don't think, and maybe we're in an unusual situation, but I don't think so. We physically don't even have the time that we can have people coming in every day and to give them the time that they deserve for flying in or driving as far as they did, just for the most part, randomly throughout the year. There's too much going on to be able to dedicate that much time to it. When we have a condensed sales season, we can have what we call an open house, which we usually encourage them to call just so we don't have too many people here all at one time and set up appointments. But we can block out those 2 or 3 days before a sale, and they can maybe look at the next 2 sale lots. And that works out great. We can give all of our time those 2 days to the families that come in and do it justice. But those things take time. So I respect the fact the breeders that do that, and it works really well for some of them. So it's a good option. I mean, I think there's a lot of positive. The negative may be if you're a new person, you really don't know where you're at on that order, or are you getting one of the better animals, or are you getting one of the average ones? It's harder to tell necessarily if you haven't been in the business that long. The next one, Ryan, I think is an interesting one because there's some history here of being popular and then fading away and maybe coming back. But that's the individual breeder live auctions. You can remember a day when there's live auctions everywhere all the time.
Well, and then like I can, back when I was a little kid, especially a little kid, there was way more of that than anything else. I mean, like, some people sold private treaty, but mostly it was a live auction type thing. And I guess I hated that some person that I know very well that was very successful in this industry, when the internet came about and these online sales, he wasn't a big internet fan anyway. He was like, the internet's going to ruin America. But anyway, I do think that there's something special about a live auction sale because, as we all know, I like a flair for the dramatic, and it can be very dramatic. And so I think that part is really fun.
No, it is. And there used to be here, whether it's a lamb, there were not goat sales up here at that time, and not meat goat sales anyway, when that was very popular. But those individual breeder sales, and sometimes a couple breeders would get together and still kind of a breeder sale, not a sale managed type situation. But we could go to pig sale after pig sale in the Midwest almost every day of the week for a month. And it was exciting. There's some good to that. I think the difficulty is schedules continue to become, I guess, more difficult to pencil in timeframes to travel to this sale and to travel to that sale. And it's difficult. It's hard to do that. If you live a long distance away from where that live sale is, your option is you are going to have to take that time to go there and participate in that live auction. Maybe there's an auction company that's broadcasting it on the internet that you can bid online, which then it becomes similar to an online sale. But those traditional live auctions, they worked very well for a long time. I think for those that were relatively close, go to the auction, buy it, load it, take it home. You don't have to worry about making a second trip. There's a lot of things there, and there's something to be said that some of those live auctions are coming back. And Ryan, you hit on it already. I think there's an excitement at the auction, and buyers getting caught up in the moment can really work to that seller's advantage. No question.
I know it worked for against us or for us or whatever you want to say.
You'd get wound up, and Sheree wouldn't stop bidding.
Well, one time, and again, this is embarrassing, but it's the truth. At one of these live auction sales, Sheree was convinced that John Ben wasn't going to buy the steer that I wanted. And so she goes to one side of the sale ring and he's on the other. And in the end, it was just them bidding against each other.
I love it. Yeah. I hope you got him.
Yeah, I don't remember which one was the official buyer, but finally the auctioneer did he only took 2 more bids, but he's like, if y'all want to continue, we can, but I think it's going to go to the same blonde boy, regardless which one of y'all buys it. And yeah, it was a little embarrassing, but we got the steer. So,
I think, and this goes along with, we did the Texas Majors, the number of shows, the number of stock show families in Texas. I think that those live sales work better in that environment because you have such a high population of show families in a given area. Where
And
if
they're
we were
all
to have,
buying at the same time.
yeah, if we were to have a goat sale here in Illinois next week, I'm sure we'd get some people to come in, but they're gonna fly, and it's gonna take them a couple days minimum to do it. It would be difficult, and I don't know that we get the national market that we have by going online. So there are, in my opinion, the last couple of years, live auctions are becoming more popular, and that's the next one we're going to talk about is the multi-breeder, or what we talk about, the sale managers that will put a sale together, maybe a lamb and goat sale, maybe a pig sale, whatever it may be, and they'll invite several breeders from that area or across the country for that matter, or even just allow it open to anybody that wants to consign to that sale. Those have always been around. Not a lot of them, but I think right now you're starting to see just a few more of them, especially on the lamb and goat side of things. And I think even on the pig side of things, you're starting to see that. And the goal would be to bring these breeders in several breeders into one location that are assumably some higher profile breeders that's going to draw an audience of buyers all to one location. Then all of a sudden, when you've got those multitude of buyers into that one location, you get caught up in that excitement. It can get, those averages and the amount of money that those individual animals are bringing, that may be as effective a way from a selling standpoint as there is to really cash in and get the most out of that animal. Now, is there commission for that sale manager? Is there expense to travel to that? Yeah, all of that comes into play, and we sometimes forget about that. But just to get to the highest dollar amount, I'm not so sure that's not a good option for the sellers. And almost all of those sales will have online bidding included into the live bidding. And Ryan, and I'm sure you've seen this before, I'll tell you what, when you're bidding online on a live auction or at that live auction, and some of those auctioneers and sale managers are maybe not as ethical as you would like them to be. Have you ever seen them take a bid out of midair, Ryan? Ever?
I cannot believe you would say somebody.
Just say it.
That.
Just say it.
Yeah, like on every damn lot.
Okay, there we go. And when they've got the internet in there to play, all of a sudden, if they're taking bids out of midair and all of a sudden there's nobody bidding, they're kind of hung on it. It used to be embarrassing for them because they had to figure out a way out. Well, now they just say, oh, the online thing was lagging or something. I mean, they can brush it off on that. So I'm telling you, if you want to talk about working to the seller's advantage in something like that, it's huge. No question. So, and I think because of the dollars that are generated, I think more breeders and even brokers are willing to consign to those type of sales because they're cashing in, and that works out great. And from a buyer's perspective, you get to see a lot of different genetics from different breeders at one place live. And that's convenient in some situations. So I think good and bad. I think all of these, and there's again, I want to make sure to emphasize that there is no good way. Just because I do it a certain way or Ryan did it a certain way, that doesn't mean that's the best for everybody by any means.
I've done it in all the ways.
All the ways. And we've consigned. We've gone down to Friday Night Fever years ago. It's hard for us to take a 35-pound weaned goat and travel to Texas and hope it looks good that next day for a prospect sale. But not to mention
on Southwest.
You used to be able to fly goats and pigs, not anymore. Now you do feel like I sent you a picture, I think, when I was lined up in my cattle chute to get on Southwest. Yeah, you're unimpressed with those arrangements.
Those things.
Both Southwest flights, getting off topic, Ryan, nearly empty, and I guess it's because of the reputation now. I kind of like it. Nobody sitting near me. Nobody in front of me, nobody behind me, nobody in my row. I'm good. I am all good about that. So let's go into some of the online auctions, and we're going to kind of lump this together. Obviously, it's popular for breeders. I think there's brokers, obviously, that'll have some online auctions. And Ryan, you and I have talked about this before.
Me no like it at all.
So there's lots of platforms out there, lots of different online companies that are willing to sell your livestock, obviously, again, for a commission. Positives, access to buyers across the country. I think if you're a smaller breeder, you post that sale up on a site along next to other breeders that are more recognizable. When people are scrolling through, they're going to see it. Maybe they're bored waiting to get outbid on something. They click on yours and you're able to get more of an audience, I guess. So access to buyers across the country is a big positive. I think you can within reason adjust when you're taking those pictures, when you're doing everything to prepare for that sale, rather than here's a live sale on this date. It becomes a little more condensed, I guess. We could picture a week or two in advance if that is what our schedule needs to happen. I think an important component to this for a lot of people, and this would be you as well, Ryan, that you need to open up a window of time prior to those sales that if people so choose to come look at them live, and I encourage it as best I can. I know it's asking a lot for a family from Texas or Utah or Idaho or California or wherever to fly in. And we have a couple days this weekend that we're opened up for open house, but it's for the most part by appointment. And there's a lot of people spending 2 to 3 days just to come and spend a couple hours looking at goats. And that means a lot. I appreciate it. And I can tell you from my perspective, I feel much better when those buyers can see them in person rather than me trying to do the best I can, or Craig, to put up a sale description that accurately describes those, because everybody has a different level that they're thinking about, or even when we're on the phone trying to describe what maybe best fits those goals. If they can be there in person and we can discuss those animals individually and whether they meet what they're trying to accomplish, it makes me feel better. It's easier. It's less stress on me. Negative side,
Where shall I begin?
I'm going to start. I get a call. I'm not going to say every day, but a couple calls a week or text that it's a person that's bought on an online sale years ago. Could have been 2 years ago, whenever. Not necessarily for me, I hope, but they just said, "Hey, we've bought from online sales from a certain breeder." They usually tell me who they are, and I don't need to know that information. And they said that animal just disappointed us when we got it in. We talked to them about it, and it just wasn't what they described. It wasn't what we were expecting, and they're very hesitant, very gun shy to go buy again. And I get it. I completely get it. I've bought pigs online for other families, and sometimes I'm really happy with them. Sometimes I'm not. But I can assure you, common sense tells me as a business person, if we don't do our best to put write-ups on there, and when called or have to text about an individual animal, to be as honest as you can in describing what that animal is going to be capable of doing on a good day or a bad day, I think that allows for repeat clients. And I know there's a lot of people out there, they would rather harvest the money the one time, and there's always new people coming in. We have not taken that approach, and a lot of others that have had successful online sales for multiple years. I think there's a reason they continue to have some of that success, because they do try to represent them a little more accurately when those people can't come and look in person. So, Ryan, I get criticized sometimes for being a little hard on some of those lower lots, but I really feel that when those people get them home, they're happier that, yep, he described and I'll get a text that this was not the heaviest muscled goat, actually the lightest muscled goat in the sale. He will not get enough muscle to compete above the local level, things like that. They think we are crazy, but I think it's just the right thing to do. There's plenty more negative I can go, but you can unload on it.
So I do not want any of these online companies to come for me. I don't think there's anything wrong with what y'all do until the end. And I think the end is bullshit. But first off, you brought up a very good point about that, how the whole country, the whole world can see your videos, can see your pictures, can have access to bidding and all this other stuff. And that is very, very, very valid. And that is why these online sales are so successful. And I get all that. The point that I thought that you brought up is very good. I have never bought an animal out of an online sale that I did not go see myself. And I do not think that there is any picture or any video that would ever make me buy one without, me or there's about 5 people in this world that I trust their eyes, that if I couldn't get there and one of them could and tell me, yeah, but I'm telling you, 5 might be pushing the limit on those people, that I would say, okay, so-and-so saw this. And so, yeah, but I just don't believe in buying animals that I or someone I don't that was someone that I trust insanely amount seeing them live. I just don't. My biggest deal with this online auction stuff is you set a time, the sale starts here and it goes from here. And then if it's supposed to end at 8, we go into extended freaking bidding for 3 more hours. Now,
It's very weighted towards the seller, those last 3 hours.
I mean, and I get that the seller is trying to get as much money as humanly possible as out of that animal, and that online sales company is trying to get as much money out of that animal because they work on commission and whatever, all that. But I'm going to tell y'all all right now, and whichever one of y'all steals this idea, I'm coming for y'all because I will like my credit for it and everything. This is what you do. Everybody that has bid on that animal at 8 o'clock when the sale ends, you put in how much money you're willing to pay for that animal.
Just type it in.
And then whoever the hell, and I mean, you may pay $100,000, say you're going to pay $100,000 for the animal. But if the next highest bid is 38, then you buy it at 38.5. And
So
all the problems are solved.
No, explain it a little bit better to me. You just have one chance to write that number down.
At the end, anybody that has bid on that animal submits whatever the amount it is that they'll pay for the animal.
Yes.
Like you put a bid in, you may be the first bid or the last bid, but you bid on that animal. Then you get a notification saying, please submit your final bid. It could be $25,000, $125,000, whatever. But whoever has the highest bid, I'm not saying you have to pay $125,000 for it, but you have to pay $500 over what the second bid was because you said you paid the most.
That is essentially what the sale is doing.
No, extended bidding is bullshit. It's freaking 4 hours of nonsense.
If you would alter your idea and just say, hey, you have one chance to write one number down and that's it. You have one bid left and you write it down. That would be kind of exciting. I'd like to watch it. I wouldn't like to participate on either end, but I think it'd be very interesting.
But I don't think that's fair. I think this part is fair where everybody gets to. No, but you do it in 5 minutes instead of 5 hours.
Well, if they go bidding back and forth,
no,
it's still going to take a while.
No, everybody gets a chance to miss. You're missing the whole point. You, at the end, sale closes at 8 o'clock. You bid on lot 1. They say, submit your final bid. Everybody that had a bid gets to submit their final bid. Whoever submitted the highest bid gets the animal. But they only pay $500 more than what the second highest bid was. So if the second highest bid is $50,000 and you said $100,000, you pay $55,000. $50,500.
Seller, I'd rather just take the high bid.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
That's a neat concept. I never thought of it that way.
And it ends all this bullshit. And I'm telling you, all you sellers out there, I'm not the only one that hates being tied up at the freaking computer for 4 hours. Extended bidding. No, we all hate it.
I agree. And you know what I think happens is some of our clients, especially the East Coast, that are ahead on time scale, and we usually have our sales on a Tuesday. So a lot of people have to get up the next morning and work. I think, honestly, if it runs too long, we'll lose some buyers because they're just tired of staying up and watching it. And I don't blame them. I get
this is the way to solve it. And whatever freaking online company steals my idea, I want my cut.
I like that. That is interesting. So there's a lot of good and bad, and a lot of the people that haven't participated in online sales, Ryan, they'll call and they just don't understand because, like you said, it's supposed to end at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever it is, and it keeps going. And they're
2 o'clock in the morning. You're drunk, still looking at the computer.
So, I
bet another 1,000.
So there are some sale platforms that are different, but for the most part, they're all what they call that horse race bidding. And it starts out anyway, most of the time, once it hits, say, 7 o'clock when the sale ends. If somebody bids at 7 o'clock, nobody's bid. There's a 5-minute clock that goes up. And if somebody bids within that 5 minutes on any animal, it resets. And it continues to reset even every time a person bids on a single animal, and it can get drawn out. And what I don't understand is that clock will be ticking down to 5 seconds, 4 seconds. And then somebody will put a bid in thinking they're trying to sneak it in as the clock's closing, but it doesn't matter because guess what?
Then it resets anyway.
It resets. So if you're going to bid, just bid. Get it over with. But
I can't.
But there's a lot of people that will wait until that clock is about down to zero. And
I am telling you, I will tell on myself right now, and I don't care because I'm a truth teller. I do not cannot tell you, but it's been at least a dozen times that one has been on an online auction, was supposed to, and I was like, look, what do I have to do to not do this? Like, can I buy it from you now? Can I give you you people aren't gonna like hearing this but I'm telling you it's true, because I did not want to sit there and wait for 14 hours and all this stuff. And many a time, not all of them, but many a time, I got that one bought before. That's just how that's the truth.
That's the truth. Did he go on the sale still?
Some of them.
You don't like talking about that, do you?
I didn't say who, but some of them.
So
that is how much I hate online sales.
Is some of the animals are going to be sold. They could theoretically be sold ahead of time. And they still put them on the sale.
Well, they could do that in a live auction or anything else too. I mean, that's just part of selling animals. Somebody's going to buy it before the sale, and they may run it up to God knows whatever. That's everything. But I'm just telling you, don't think that online sales are not without that, because it happens in those too, and it's just part of life.
Well,
but
don't you think if that information got out to one of your clients that wanted to buy that and they didn't have a chance, don't you think that would? I think it hurts that the breeder
didn't
when
out
they get
anybody.
exposed. No, I'm not saying you did. Well, now you did, but then at the time you didn't.
No,
but I think some of that
who it was.
Some of that's going to get out, and it just isn't going to reflect in a real positive light.
No, it's not positive. But I'm just telling you, I did what I had to do to get the animal and know how to deal with this bullshit. Now I'm telling you, I could stay hooked till the set time and submit the bid, like I said, but I'm not going to do that extended bidding, 4-hour nonsense. Watch the clock. I go crazy. I cannot.
So we're running.
I don't have patience,
more
people.
To do.
I just don't.
So to summarize the online, we like the national audience. We like the convenience of sitting at home. I strongly encourage anybody that's going to buy online, at a minimum, touch base with that breeder and get their opinion. Can they lie to you about it? Yeah, but guess what? If they do, you're probably not going to go back the following year. But you've got to at least reach out, look at the videos if they're available. If you can make it there in person, do so. Do everything you can to try to gather as much information, just like you would no matter what you're doing. Try to get as much information as you can. And if those breeders aren't willing to sit down and visit with you for a little while about those animals, it would make me very nervous. And we have buyers, Ryan, all the time that I'll see a name at the end on an invoice that I assume maybe Craig or Tara or somebody talked to him, because I didn't. And sometimes they just buy. And that's fine. Sometimes it works out great for them. They read the description and that's easy on our end, but I'm going to continue to state the fact, reach out, do what you can to get as much information as you possibly can to help that work. And I think it gives buyers an option to buy anywhere from any breeder in the country. And there's haulers now that are going to transport them pretty close to you for a fairly reasonable amount. I mean, there's a lot of upside to it and a lot of convenience to it. But you need, if you're new to that breeder and you don't have a relationship, you need to try to build that relationship, communicate with them, do what you can to make sure you're getting what you intend to purchase. Brokers. And Ryan, I'm going to say you were a broker at one time, but you had a statement. You're not a broker. I disagree. You're not gay, and you're not a broker. I'm going to go on.
I don't know. I don't know what I was. I mean, I was a broker in the extent that I went to other people and bought animals and got them into other homes. But no, I never made any money on it. So I guess I'm more like the Gay Make-A-Wish Foundation. But I don't know.
That is the perfect description. The Gay Make-A-Wish Foundation. Right here, live and now. Terrible gay, and you're a terrible broker.
There you go. Yeah.
By definition, what is the purpose of a broker? Why are they?
I think what a broker pretty much does is just like I said. He travels, she, whatever you identify as these days, travel around, and they collect livestock of whatever species they specify in, or maybe multiple species and whatever. And then they they either, I think there's two types basically. They either bring those back to their location and their barn and resell them, or there is like an order buyer situation. And I guess that's more what even though I was not good at it because I didn't make money at it or try to make money at it, but like I was more of an order buyer. You want a steer for this show, and I would go try to fill that order, etc. And, a lot of people are pretty hard on brokers and don't think they have a spot or place or all this other stuff. I would say it's the exact opposite. I think, first off, we should be welcoming to anybody that wants to be in this industry. And number two, there are people, especially younger people, that may not have the finances or the capital to start a herd and, be out that long of an investment in terms of raising them and keeping them all year and the upkeep and all the things, but they can go buy one or, a dozen and resell them and make not probably as much profit because you're not going to normally, after you've bought it once, you've probably bought it for close to what its value is. So you're not going to make a whole lot more, but it keeps them involved and keeps them going. And it's what they like to do. And it's what they can do at that point in time. So I'm telling you, I would much rather deal that way than with some of the breeder situations.
Yeah. And I think you can go good and bad. And we're, guys,
there's good and bad in all of it.
Yeah. I want to make sure there's breeders out there that are going to mislead you. There's going to be breeders out there that are as good as gold. Same with brokers, same with sale managers, all of those. You're going to find good and bad. And that you have to sort through. And I encourage, if you had a bad experience with one of them, just the only thing you can do about it is you don't go back. You don't give them business in the future. But I think, Ryan, and the difference with you, most brokers obviously are in it some are trying to make a living doing it. Some is just a hobby. I think that you made a comment kind of like what you did, that order buying. If you kind of have a relationship with that broker and they know exactly where your feeding abilities are, your managing abilities, what you want to accomplish, and you don't have the time to go out on the road. And I see this more on the cattle side probably than the sheep and the hogs and the goats, but it's across the board, but maybe a little more on the cattle side. I think that's a very valuable asset. And those brokers are putting in time and risking some capital if they're gathering on their own, that they need paid for their service. That just is what it is. And they're going to get paid for their service by charging more for that animal than what they paid for it. And I promise you, if you go send somebody out to the Dakotas or wherever to buy 20 calves out of the pasture and bring them back here and house them for a couple months and sell them, there's going to be some of those animals they sell for less than what they paid for them. And they're hoping to hit a home run on maybe a few that they didn't have to give a whole lot for. So there's some risk involved. I think there's a little bit of a reputation because of some of the bad apples. And again, it's across all breeders, brokers, all the above, but they will get lumped together. Sometimes that broker's out to make as much money as they possibly can. And that's capitalism, people. If they found one and they took the time to go out and find it and they got it bought for $10,000 and that thing's worth $50,000 or $60,000 now, the better for them. That's a great, they had the ability to see it young. They had the ability to take action and get that done, because there may be the next 3 they lose money on. So it's all part of it. Nobody's going to make you go buy from that broker. And if you didn't already put an order in with them, that's up to you. Nobody's forcing you. If they put a price on there that's too high, just like a breeder or an online auction, when it gets to a certain point, you're not being forced to purchase that animal. So I'm with you, Ryan. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think there's a lot of good. If you've got a broker out there that's really willing to engage and go to some of those shows and help out. And I know some breeders, some brokers are going to charge you to go help you at the show. Others will provide it as part of the service. We'll be at every Texas major, at Oklahoma City, at many state fairs, and we don't charge anybody for any of that service that myself or Craig or one of our representatives.
It charges me mental anguish.
And I promise you, I haven't sat down and just said, okay, here's how much money and time we spend traveling around the country to help families, but it's a significant amount. It's not cheap to leave Illinois and go to a Texas major with a rental car and a hotel and your airfare, and everything adds up, and it adds up pretty fast. So there's definitely some positives if you can get a broker that will help with some of those things. And some of those families can use those as mentors to teach those kids, here's how we feed, here's how we clip, here's how we feed. I would encourage you to make sure that broker is one that you feel comfortable with, because if they spend that much time, or breeder for anything, where I guess we're going across the board, that they're going to have an influence on your child, especially if you're leaning on them for quite a bit of help. So put some thought into it. Make sure that's a role model that you're comfortable with. And everybody's going to set different priorities on those kind of things. A negative side of it, Ryan, I notice in some of these brokers, and it doesn't matter what the species, but that once they build a very large client base and they have multiple families competing at the national level or at a state fair against each other, I notice there's a lot of bickering and some hard feelings from one family to the next, because they may have been third in the pecking order if those brokers are selling privately and didn't necessarily get the best one. And under those scenarios, a broker has to decide who's going to get what they perceive to be the best animal. And if you're a family that felt you should have had that chance and didn't get it, there's going to be hard feelings there probably. So it's difficult. It's no different than a breeder selling private trade or anything, but there's always the pecking order. And for the most part, the people are moving up the pecking order for multiple reasons. Maybe they have the most money to spend. Maybe they've been with that broker the longest. Maybe they're the best feeder. There's a lot of things, but that seems to come into play, maybe even more so on the broker side than some of the others, just because they can build a larger client base sometimes that they have at given shows. So it's interesting, but I think there's good and bad there. There just is, and that's going to take me, and Ryan might have some more on it, but I want to bring up a couple things. And this goes across the industry, not just a online sale or a private treaty sale. But it's interesting. Over the years, I've personally been involved or witnessed what I would consider to be good people doing something they normally would not because they're under financial distress. Does that make sense, Ryan?
Yes.
Good people, if they're in a situation where they've got a bank payment or maybe I should make it more clear. Raising show stock, it's a great. My family couldn't pick a better thing to do. It's our livelihood. We love it. This is what we want to do. And it's part of our income. It's part of how we make a living. But I don't want to ever give the percentage of people out there that are raising show livestock and making a living off of that solely. Ryan, do you have any idea what that percentage would be?
I would not think it would be greatly high.
Oh, I'm going to say it's pretty low. Now, the number of people doing it as a hobby because
they
love it. They love it. They are passionate about it. They have another job doing something else. That's all great. But because it's so difficult to make a living solely in this industry, sometimes those breeders and or brokers that maybe get overextended, because they're in that financial bind, they may be more willing to push that animal on you, knowing that it's not maybe the one that's going to fit you, and do things that maybe they wouldn't do because of those financial stresses. And this isn't just the livestock industry. This is just in general. So it's interesting. And I've been involved in some of those situations, and I would have bet my life that this person would have treated you differently. And then all of a sudden something goes wrong. And the deeper you look into it, they kind of had a gun to their head from a financial standpoint. I'm not saying it's right or excusable, but sometimes it happens. So lots of good and bad on the sales season. I would say, Ryan, where do you see the future? I think we've settled on online sales are probably here to stay. I think auctions.
I think everything that we've talked about, like you're going to run into all of it. Because again, I thought at one point that like the live auction may completely vanish, but it's making a comeback, and I don't know if it would ever completely vanish. And I thought it would completely vanish in maybe like, market stuff, weathers, bears, stuff like that. But it's making a comeback some there, but I don't know if it would ever completely vanish from the seed stock perspective of things. But I think you're going to run into all of these scenarios and all of these situations if you do it enough and hit the road or hunt long enough. And so I think that's why, even though Dale came up with this topic, I think it is a good topic, because you need to know all the ups and downs and trials and tribulations and the positives and the negatives and the good things on all the ways that show stock are sold and put out there into this marvelous universe that we call the livestock show ring. And so, yeah, but I think they're all, I think if you show long enough and go hard enough, you're going to run into all of these scenarios and all of these situations at some point in terms of buying an animal.
You will see the good and bad in every single one of those we mentioned. If you're in it long enough, you just will. And those are the choices you have to make, adjusting after you have an experience with that particular option. So with that, let's go on to question and answer, Ryan. I did not have a lot of time to pull these up.
Good.
I don't even know that you're going to like them.
I hope they're terrible. Let's just not do it, since you know how many times we won't do it.
No, I have them here. We're doing them. I have them, and one of them said no name, so I wrote down no name. The first one I'm going to have to put some thought into this one, but it's your question, so I'm just going to let you take care of it.
Oh, thanks.
This one comes from Robin.
Feel like the luckiest girl at the prom already.
What are your thoughts on vertical integration in the beef cattle industry?
That's a little vague.
It is vague. That is the question. I told you I didn't have a lot of time to dig. Vertical integration. I mean, I can attempt.
I mean, I know what vertical, but like, there's 900 million ways to answer this.
Yeah.
I mean, there is like.
I'm assuming that they're worried about it. It's concerning that maybe it's going to change the industry. I don't know. I guess when we talk about the vertical integration, it's when a business owns all facets of production from the
multiple facets of multiple facets of production. But I mean, it's been vertical integration has been in this industry for a while now. And I mean, not maybe like in huge numbers, but in several different facets of it. And so again, I guess that just because the question is so vague, and it's weird that somebody would ask this and not want their name given out anyway.
No, this one gave their name. This was Robin.
Oh, okay. I thought you said this was no name. Anyway, but I think it's probably here. I don't see anything wrong with it per se, because again, if you have the means and the ways to do that, that's just more outlets for you to make income at it, or also lose income at it. I mean, the greater the risk, the greater the reward sometimes. But I'm confused by this question because it's not anything new.
No, I would agree. I think I would compare and contrast it. And I don't know what direction Robin wants to take this, but if we look at the poultry industry and we compare that to where the beef industry is, or even the pork industry, poultry was probably the first to vertically integrate, and they are absolutely vertically integrated. Pork has definitely become very vertically integrated, but those systems were more conducive to vertical integration. When we talk about the beef industry, I just don't. I think there's a lot of obstacles there that will prevent this much vertical integration that we see in pork and we see in chicken. From the standpoint of I guess the biggest hurdle that comes to mind right now, it takes a lot of ground to run a cow-calf operation, and I don't think these corporations can physically purchase that much ground. Could they go out and buy the feedlots to feed them in? Yeah, they can own the packing plants. So they can vertically integrate, just not from beginning to end. And I guess that's probably where I see that happening. I think there's a lot of what we call, I guess, contracts being made and associations being formed that, okay, this cow-calf producer is pretty well aligned with this feedlot who's aligned with this packing plant. I mean, a lot of relationships are being built, and I assume Robin's concerned if we vertically integrate too much, like in the pork and the chicken industry, those private producers become fewer and fewer. And if you're still in the hog industry and you're just raising 50 sows, it becomes difficult to even market those pigs to get shackle space in certain times. So I kind of get where she's going with it, but I think logistically it's difficult for the beef industry to go that far with it. And I'm not saying that I'm in favor of Tyson or JBS or Cargill monopolizing everything from beginning to end. But you know what? Some economic advisors would tell you that the poultry industry because of the vertical integration, they've captured a larger share of the market because they can provide a very cheap product to the public. The same with pork, because of vertical integration and efficiencies that follow. They can present a product to the retail store at a lower price. The beef industry's always had the advantage historically that was the preferred meat. So people were, if they have the disposable income, would pay more to purchase beef because they liked it more. I think chicken has become so popular, and from the health conscious consumer, some of these advantages are going away. And again, they can't vertically integrate. They can't become as efficient maybe as pork and chicken. So there's hurdles there. But some economists would say if we would vertically integrate, we could maybe pull back more of that market share that's been lost because of some of those things. But Robin, I'm not even sure that answers your question. So I apologize. What about vertical integration in the show stock industry, Ryan? I don't think we have to worry about that too much.
I mean, yeah. No, I don't think so.
Okay, let's go to No Name. I don't even have it there, so I can't mess this up. Clifton won't get any email complaints or anything on this.
Okay.
Good morning, Dale and Ryan. I have a question, and if going on there, please do not use my name. Okay, got it. On to my question. What is the purpose? Oh, we already answered this. What is the purpose of the broker? We have been buying animals from the same guy for 4 years, and every year he seems to be less involved with us and is favoring another family that we feel we are getting the second share. What do you suggest the right thing to do is, or I'm thinking it over?
Go to a different broker if you're not happy, or go to a breeder, or go to any of the other options that we talked about. And you really did not put much time into these questions at all.
Well, I remember reading that question a while ago, and that was kind of what stimulated the topic. But it's good that here's a actual example, and I think
we just gave you 40 minutes worth of options.
So if I mean, and I don't know, I don't even know the name now. That's good because I'd probably use it by mistake. If Ryan's right, if you're not only not happy, to me, I think if you're even uncomfortable, you need to go to a different option. And maybe it's good that this came out because we didn't really put that out there. But the best way to succeed into the future is seek out those people that you do feel comfortable with and continue to go that direction. If you feel not only not happy, but uncomfortable with that broker or that breeder or that sales mechanism or whatever it is, if you have an uncomfortable feeling, don't jump ship, find something that you're comfortable with. And I think success will follow that instinct of your gut telling you this is where I need to be. And hopefully.
Just to add on to that, like, again, on the mental side of all of this, I think people forget that the work and everything that goes into this every single day. And so if, like Dale says, if you're not comfortable, if you're not 100% behind whoever you're buying this from and think you're absolutely getting what you wanted, what you deserve, what you paid for, all this, if there's any hesitations or anything like that, it's probably going to roll over into other aspects of the deal because you're constantly going to think, well, maybe the Hatfield's got a better one or whatever than what I did. And so I think that a lot of this is more mental than what people ever want to talk about. But I think you have to be supremely confident in your animal and the people that you surround yourself in this deal if you're truly going to be a success.
Absolutely. And for whoever this is, that doesn't mean that if you go to another broker, you still won't be. There always is going to be a first person that gets picked, a second person if they're selling that. It just is what it is. You just have to decide, okay, what's the best option for me?
Yep.
And I didn't bring this up, Brian, and you always beat up on my online marketing a little bit.
I don't beat up on your marketing. I beat up on the end of all online sales because I think it's bullshit.
So
I just fixed that for everyone.
So with this little issue that this family has, when we put everything from top to bottom that we raise, Weathers, occasionally we'll sell a private treaty doe, but Weathers, that eliminates this situation. It does favor those that have a larger budget. It just is. Who's ever going to click that button is going to end up with that animal. And that's a problem too, because these animals are getting across species. They're as expensive as they've ever been. So it's hard. It really is. But just realize that no matter what option you're seeking, that doesn't always mean that you're going to be put right up to the front. And maybe more longevity. It sounds like you've been with this one for a while, so maybe that doesn't work. But usually the better relationship you build and the more confidence that broker or that breeder, if they're selling privately, puts in you, you probably have a little better chance of moving up that ladder. Next and final question comes from Margaret. Thank you very much for your podcast. I do enjoy them and have learned a lot. However, there are times I'm wanting to dig in more in understanding, especially when it comes to feed percent and breeding genetics in cattle. I tend to think like Dale, this is frightening, and wanting to understand what I feed, how it affects the animal, how does genetics play into, etc., but not spend another 4 years in college to do so. We aren't even done with this one. I don't think you're going to learn those things necessarily in college. Ryan, did you learn those things in college?
No.
I'm not saying that you won't get some basic feed and basic genetics.
I mean, you can take a feeds and feeding class and learn some shit, but it's not going to really do anything for you in this situation. I'm just saying.
So she's wanting to know, is there an online program that you could recommend that I can learn from? I don't think that's there.
No, there's not an online program. And again, like if you want, I would say the easiest thing to do is study your feed tag. If you want to know the science part of it, and then do some Googling and stuff like that. But if you're just more interested in what is the best feed for you and whatever and all this other stuff, that's just trial and error and asking people. I mean, and that's not going to come from a feed tag either, because again, I don't want the feed companies coming after me. But if you really compare feed tags, they're pretty much all the same.
It does have a lot to do with marketing.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, and that's why I constantly say it does not matter to me what type of what species or what type of show feed you feed. Get what you can get the freshest, because in all sincerity, those feed tags are pretty much all the same. And so minute differences in between them. And so that part, but and then on the breeding and the genetics part, I mean, I guess we could have another podcast about that. But dear God, Lord, boy.
See, I would enjoy that. You maybe not so much. The one that doesn't even ask what the pedigree is before buying a steer.
I don't. I just go buy the animal. Like, I don't care what it is.
That just shocks me.
You could lie. They could be lying.
They could,
and
not only could they be, probably are sometimes.
I don't care what it is. I am there to find out which one that I want to take home for Susie, Q, or whoever gave me an order. And the Gay Make-A-Wish Foundation continued on just fine. It was perfect. It was very successful, by the way. And whatever. I mean.
So Margaret, I couldn't agree more with Ryan's statement about feed that you can get fresh and consistent, that local store is not going to run out of it. I tell all of our clients, I say, well, what feed do you want? And I said, well, we'll use A, B, and C, but I want to know what's available at your feed store. Let me know, and I can give you recommendations. But a lot of times, if we can control the amount of intake, if that's a feed that's very palatable, that they like the taste of and will consume quite a bit, so we can dictate how much they eat rather than us begging them to eat, that's always going to put us in a better position. Irregardless if it's 12% protein or 18% protein, I got news for you. I'd love to do just an episode on feed tags, because percent protein means almost nothing. And I'm sure I'm going to upset lots of people when I say that. But all that is a summation of amino acids, and it could be all in one or two amino acids. It's our lowest amino acid, how far off the requirement that is, that will be limiting. And it doesn't matter if we can be deficient and be feeding 30% crude protein. So most of the feed companies understand this, and most of the feed companies have a percent protein in a realistic range. They have a calcium and phosphorus ratio that's not going to throw the animal off. They've all accomplished, for the most part, those basics that need to happen. Now, I'm not saying there's not maybe some medication differences or things like that, but still, I don't know that it overweighs what Ryan said, the freshest feed that you can get that's going to be appealing to those animals, and we can then control their intake. And it really becomes that simple to me. I hope that makes sense. The genetics part, that's yeah, go spend time with breeders, and you're going to get every philosophy in the world. And good luck sorting it out because it's a hard one to quantify. That is the last question, Ryan.
Yay.
And we're a little long again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seems like it gets longer and longer each week.
It does, but it was good. I could have went forever on current events and Balloon Gate or Object Gate. I hope we get something, some news that I hope they tell us something at some point. Do you think if they just ignore it forever, we just let it go away?
No, I don't think it's going away.
No, I don't either. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?